welcome to all of you. I'm Brenda Dean. I'm a member of the House of Lords and I'm delighted to sponsor this event this evening. Now, this room has many events on many important occasions. I think this is a unique occasion. This organisation, DebateMate, has only been going 2 years. Last year you had this event in the LSE, and this year you've come to the House of Lords. One, because they couldn't accommodate you, and two, because hopefully you've come to the home of debating. There's people in this building who lead their lives talking, debating every day, and some of you will have seen the red monitors, and debates are taking place all the time in here. Now, we've got lots of students here, and I'd like to particularly welcome the young people. When I saw you all sitting down, I thought, my God, have we got to sit in here? You know, what have we done in this place? But you're very, very welcome. And those of you who are not in the last two teams debating are still champions. You're champions from your area. You've won the debates in your area. You're all winners, as they say. And so you're particularly welcome here this evening. But of course, tonight wouldn't have taken place without your teachers at school, the young students that have worked with you, and indeed the supporters. And there's a lot of people here this evening who have supported DebateMate. There's not many organisations at 2 years of age could hold an event like this and it be so active and so invigorating for anyone who's attending it. And can I say, if you're here and you're not yet a supporter, and you know that means kind of pockets and what you keep in your pockets, we would hope that you will have this evening be so impressed with what's going on that you will become a supporter. That would be great if you would be, because we want to see it go from strength to strength. So welcome, and I'd like to hand over to a dear friend of mine, Margaret McCabe, the CEO, Chief Executive, who is the founder of DebateMate. She's not just the founder, it was her idea as well, and I'm very proud that Margaret is a friend of mine, and she deserves a huge welcome, because without her we wouldn't all be here this evening. So Margaret, over to you, and thank you.
That's very nice, thank you very much. Welcome everyone, can you all hear me? I'm going to say very few thank yous. I need to do this. I apologise for everyone who's dying to hear the debate, but sometimes we've just got to romp through these so that people know that they are special and they're making a difference. So, my lords, baronesses, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished debaters and guests, and the schools who are represented here tonight, the debaters from Manchester Academy, City Academy, Lordswood School, Birmingham, Kingsford Community School in Newham, and Cater Park, welcome, and I hope this is not the last time that you appear at the House of Lords. Welcome tonight to the final of the 09-010 programme. We started in November with running debate clubs in a number of schools in London, Birmingham, Manchester and Nottingham. We've been training 1,000 young people a week in our programme to debate, and the young people you see here tonight are the finalists who have come through and they've won every debate to get here today. I just wanted to say thank you to certain of our supporters without whom we couldn't be here today. Baroness Dean, very much for your fantastic friendship over the years. To Richard Koch, a very generous funder in whose name the cup will be presented tonight. Richard, I can see at the back, blushing. Thank you very much. To Richard Elnut from Westminster School, Head of History. Thank you, Richard, where are you? Westminster School down the road hosted the semi-finals for us this afternoon, which was a major logistical organisational achievement, so thank you very much for that. I'd like to thank our fantastic head teachers and the teachers in the schools. There are a number of them here tonight. They're all wearing badges. Without them we couldn't function. And do take a chance to talk to them if you get an opportunity. Obviously we couldn't function either without our DebateMate mentors. They're here wearing their badges here tonight. We call them mentors because that's really what they do, but they're actually fabulous young people who are debaters at university doing a variety of courses. And also thank you to my staff who have put this on tonight, the DebateMate programme directors, they're here as well. And last but not least, thank you very much to our funders and supporters. We have a number of supporters who do things for us for nothing, which is absolutely fantastic. We've got Alan Parker, Head of Brunswick Communications, Jonathan Rhodes, aiding Lee from Brunswick, who do that for us. Our trustees, who are long-suffering and hard-working, they're here tonight. Peter Bazalgette, Robin Field, Jonathan Rhodes, Lewis Iwu, Alice Cormac, amongst others. I'd like to thank very much Glenn Manchester and Thunderhead. They help us a lot by funding us and also by developing and building our website for us. Clifford Chance, our lawyers, Deloitte Touche, our accountants, Coots, our bankers, and on it goes. But most importantly, it's our debaters I'd like to thank tonight. Just very briefly, people often ask me why DebateMate, why we're here, why I set it up, and why I gave up a career in a private practice at the bar and was diverted from seeking high judicial office to start what at the time everyone thought was a slightly mad idea. But it's the raw statistics that 80% of the top jobs in the country come from 7% of the schools, and that there are 4 million young people in the UK living in poverty, and there's very little social mobility. It's those facts that prompted me to try and do something about it, to try and tackle the social injustice that causes, to try and crack some form of social mobility, and to try and make a breakthrough through what is really a class and an education apartheid. And I'm very happy to say that we are actually delivering change, and we have a mandate for change, and we are achieving change in the way we set out through running debate clubs in schools. It's a very simple concept, and those of you who are familiar with debating will know that it has been running in the top schools in our country for generations, and has produced the top business and political leaders, both of this generation and previous generations. So I thought, why not tweak it a bit and offer those skills in the most deprived areas where they're most needed. And we constantly evaluate everything we do. The poor kids in our program are always being measured and evaluated, just so that we know that what we do works. And we have fantastic achievements. I'm very happy to report that we've had 1,000 children in our core program. We run lots of other programs as well. We run an entrepreneurs program, a women's leadership program, DebateMate Plus program to help children get into the top universities. But in our core program this year that's just finished, we had 49% female, 51% male, and just a few of the statistics that were measured, a few of the things that people found that their own personal success story, they were able to measure that 86% of them, young people involved, had found there was an improvement in their ability to make a clear and structured argument. 86% found that they improved their ability to see more than one side of the argument had improved, and 79% said that debating helped in normal class lessons. 75% there was an increase in their ability to use formal language. Formal language is very important. That's actually probably the first tool that you need to learn to develop a career and to keep a good job. 73% said the increase in the ability to work as part of a team, and 81% said there was an increase in their ability to judge the performance of others and give positive feedback, or 71% that their ability to discuss things with adults had improved. I mean, these are phenomenal successes. So what's next? Where's my vision? The vision is to increase the opportunity so that we can actually offer more programs like this to more young people in our schools. I wanted to create a revolution in the way young people learn, because we teach actually verbal intelligence. We don't necessarily assume there's any degree of literacy, and that is really revolutionising our program. And I'd like to shatter the glass ceiling so that that young people can actually obtain the careers that they're so passionate about. And we're doing this with our innovative career placement programs, with our supporters, with Sky News, News International, with Brunswick, with Thunderhead, who are here tonight, with various organisations that are helping us to help our young people. We can't do any of this without your support, so I thank you very, very much indeed. What is unique about everyone who's here tonight, who's supporting us, what you all have in common, although you're all from widely disparate fields, is your ability to communicate. It is a gift that you probably all take for granted. And we at DebateMate are constantly analysing what is communication in an age of information. And communication is the sum total of three factors. It's an ability to listen and to speak. It's an ability to work in teams strategically, and then ability to lead. And all of you come here tonight as leaders in your field with that ability to communicate. That's what you have in common. But also, what marks you out as being different is that you're here tonight supporting us. And what you also have in common is that you all realise that it really doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, or what you achieve in your own life. What makes a difference to your life is your ability to support others, to support organisations like us, because it's actually you can make the difference, and you can make the difference to people's lives. So I thank you very, very much for coming here tonight. I thank you for supporting us, and enjoy the debate.
Good evening, my name is Peter Belgian. I'm very proud to be a trustee of Debate Mate. There's one person you didn't thank, Margaret.
Oh.
You forgot. It's very, very bad of you. It was yourself.
Oh.
Well done. You're in three. Oh my God, what have I done? I think I've broken it. I think it's time to hear the debate. And that's what we're going to do now. And I'm delighted to be introducing the debate, because what we wanted to do was to introduce the parliamentarians of the future. I'm not wrong, am I? Good. Nod, that's the right reaction. The parliamentarians of the future to the parliamentarians of the present. I'm very delighted to be able to introduce my good friend, Krishnan Guru-Murthy, who's going to chair the debate. He should be presenting Channel 4 News, but he's found something much, much more important to do tonight, and that's chair Debate Mate. Well done, Krish.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's a huge pleasure to be here. Before we start, I just want to say one thing, which is that debating can change your life, because it sort of changed mine. Because when I was your age, I did a competition very similar to this. I got invited onto a TV programme, and within a year I was invited to do a series on BBC Two, and that's how I started doing what I'm doing. And one of my very first guests in that series was Renaissance man and national treasure Stephen Fry, who is here tonight. So when we get to the floor debates, I do expect contributions, because you might be spotted. Right, so our motion tonight is this House would abolish the monarchy. I'm going to briefly introduce the judges to you first of all tonight, and I'm going to slightly break with tradition and introduce them all, and then invite you to applaud them together rather than individually. They are Becky Mwinde, who's a law student at Oxford and debated for Scotland at the World Schools Championships in 2006. Sean Ayahina Wara, who's from Nottingham, studying politics and president of the Nottingham Union. Kerith Evans, who studied history at UCL and debated for Wales at the Schools Championships, at the World Championships. And Lewis Iwu, who is a former president of the Oxford Student Union and a former World University debating champion, which is a huge accolade, and Alan Parker, who is a partner at Brunswick. Could you welcome the judges? Proposing our motion this evening are Manchester Academy, opposing it are Kingsford, and the speakers for Manchester are Kamal, Faizan, Idris and Arslan. Is that all right? Arslan. Okay. Thank you very much. And from Kingsford we have Geraldine, Iranga, Annie and Kofi. And I want to remind you all, because it's a big room, if you come up to this lectern and this microphone to deliver your speeches. So first of all, to propose the motion that this house, or this tent, would abolish the monarchy. Come on.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We, the proposition team, propose strongly that the monarchy should be abolished, and so agree with the motion passed. Now let me just introduce our team. Faizan, second speaker, will talk about the economic aspects of this motion. Idris will refer to the alternative of a monarch in more detail, and Arslan will summarise all of our points. Now, let me just address one main issue with the monarch. It is not a democracy, and that is what my points will be based on. Now let's address this in detail. She's not a democracy. Democracy is an ideology where we, the people, elect someone to represent us. She is not elected. She is there in power from hereditary power. from monarchs, passed down through generations to generations. Now, I strongly believe we, a multicultural society, would not elect a wealthy white woman and her son, and his son, and his son, and his son to rule us for future generations. She, as a monarch, has more power than the parliament. She can dissolve our parliament. She can dissolve our democracy. And this has happened. The Australian election part of the monarch dissolved the Australian Parliament in 1970. This completely put Australia in an anarchy, and well, they had to reintroduce it. But this could happen. We know it's unlikely, but there is the fact that this could happen, and she has the power to do this, and she has not been elected by us, so why should she have that power? So that is why we propose this motion that she should not have any power and the monarchy should be abolished. Now, let's look at this. She does not represent a society. What does she know about me, an Asian lad living in Moss Side? How can she ever connect to me? How can she ever portray my point of views or my personality, my opinions to the parties that she attends to across the world? What is she actually conveying to those? No, thank you. What is she actually conveying to those events and parties? She is conveying upper classes. She is conveying social divides, which is not what our no, thank you. Which is not what our country or Commonwealth represent. We represent a democracy, which she is an antithesis to. I would also like to address the prejudice. No, thank you. I'd like to address the prejudice thinking of the monarch. They think that because they are born in a family, that they are better than us, that they have more power than us. How can this even last in this society where even here in debate, mate, we are given opportunities to mix with the other classes and destroy the social divides?
Yeah, wait,
Yes, ma'am.
but isn't that the whole basis of the Priestess Trust? You say she can't relate to you, but neither can David Cameron, who went to Eton. Would you propose we do abolish the government?
Yes, but the matter of fact is that we, as a people, elected David Cameron. No, thank you. We did not elect the Queen. She has been here for how many years and years, and how long will her imprint of a dictatorship linger on our society's conscious? How can such an ideology survive in today's society, where we have no social divides, where we have equality, where we promote equality, where we promote togetherness? She is just a symbol of...
Point of information.
No, thank you. She's just a symbol of all the negative aspects of today's society. And that is why me and my team, as the first leader of this team, proposed this motion that the monarchy should be abolished. Now, thank you.
Kamal, thank you very much indeed. And now to oppose the motion, ladies and gentlemen, from Kingsford, Geraldry.
Evening, ladies and gentlemen. Now, the first speaker of the proposition begins by telling us that this, the monarchy, the Queen, in fact, does not represent our society. Then why is it that the Queen represents Britain, or is seen as Britain's identity, in Commonwealth groups? Why is it that people, when they think of Britain, they think of the Queen, if she does not represent the society? He also claims that the Queen does not mix with other classes. Well, as the leader of the Commonwealth group, which includes third world countries, tell me that within those Commonwealth countries, there's not different classes within that. Now, I move on to my first point about why the monarchy, which is our tradition in itself, is very important. Now, we on the opposition feel that the monarchy is very, very important because it constructs our society. The Queen, in fact, passes law which we have to abide by. So this tradition is important and valuable because it shapes us all. And ladies and gentlemen, what shapes us all is our identity. Now, tradition defines Britain because it defines what it is to be British. The monarchy in itself also influences, allow me to finish, influences Britain's recognition, and the Queen sets up British identity. Yes?
You say that the Queen represents the Commonwealth. she does not represent us. She's an image. Like Uncle Sam is an image of America, yet he does not represent America.
You claim that the Queen is an image, then why do we all respect the Queen if she's just an image? Why do we not all go up to the Queen and, say what we want to say to her? But you claim that she's an image. She's a person of power, so therefore, ladies and gentlemen, you cannot just disregard the Queen. Now, moving on to why the monarchy defines the Britain. The Queen has the power to pass laws based on the 10 Commandments, which we have to abide by as citizens. She's representative of Britain. Yes?
Why should atheists have to abide by religious?
Because you're in this country. Therefore, if you're in this country, you abide by the laws of this country. And that is not an option, ladies and gentlemen. And that's just to clarify that. Now moving on swiftly. The reason why we on the opposition believe that the Queen is our identity because we have the Queen's Court of Magistrates, Queen's Court, Queen's Army. That is why the Queen is so important, because, ladies and gentlemen, she is our identity. She has the power to make or break these laws which we all have to abide by. And these laws, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to finish. These laws define our abilities, yes.
She has the power to make or break our laws, yet we did not elect her. Is that not a dictatorship?
You claim that is a dictatorship, as you say, but the Queen in herself is impartial, unlike the Parliament. Now, moving on swiftly, ladies and gentlemen. Moving on swiftly, by removing the Queen, ladies and gentlemen, we're removing the foundations of the law. We remove British morals. We remove British culture. Now, without the Queen, ladies and gentlemen, we lose parts of ourselves because she's seen as the heart of the country, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I'll now move on to my second point about how the monarchy is essential to the operation of the countries around the world. First of all, the Queen is the monarchy in itself is symbolic for our past and our heritage that we share. But most importantly, she's very essential to the way we operate because people have allegiances to the Queen, such as the army and the government. Now, to remove the Queen, ladies and gentlemen, leaves a big question within the Commonwealth group. This Commonwealth group, may I clarify, trading and political allegiances. Now, because once you remove the Queen, you remove the importance of an allegiance. So the Commonwealth groups lose foundation on which it is founded. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it is very easy to forget how far-reaching the monarchy's influence is. As in Australia. Now, by saying that the monarchy has a great influence, we find that Great Britain's flag is in that of Australia, and that's one of the recognitions that the monarchy gains for us, which is why it's important and is of significance. Now, the Queen signifies unity because she's the leader of the Commonwealth group, and she also deals with humanitarian groups. Now, another way of how the monarchy gains recognition for us is that it supports poorer countries by ensuring good trading, therefore helping the economy. So you cannot just say that you want to abolish a tradition which has been going on 100 years because it's not a democracy. We still get to choose who makes the policies which we abide by. It's just that the Queen has to approve of it. Thank you very much. Sorry, what have I said today? I've said how the monarchy is an important tradition. I've said how it's essential to the running of countries. And ladies and gentlemen, I stand firmly on opposition that we urge you to oppose the motion, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much. Let's have our second speaker for the proposition, Faisal.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are the proposal team that proposed the motion that the monarchy should be abolished. Firstly, I'm going to begin with some rebuttal.
Let me just push this.
Firstly, I'm going to start with some rebuttal. The Queen mentioned, the team mentioned, the opposition mentioned that the Queen represents Britain. What we are trying to actually do is the fact that we don't believe that she represents us. Like Kamal stated firmly, that she does not know anything about an Asian lad living in Mossad or Rusholme, so how is she able to represent every aspect of this society? And they said that the Queen does pass laws. She doesn't actually pass laws. All she does is sign a paper that the Parliament stick in front of her, and I don't think she puts a lot of thought into what she's signing. She just has a look and thinks, yeah, a couple of people have made the decision, so why not I should sign it. And you mentioned that we should go and speak to the Queen about our problems. Wouldn't I get arrested for that? If I walked up to the Queen and said, yeah, I've got a problem. And you said that we are living in a Christian country, but what happened to free will? Do we not have the will to speak against what we believe? And you mentioned the Commonwealth. The Commonwealth was us invading different countries, saying that we are supposedly civilizing them. Let's have a look at the money side of this, whether the Queen deserves this or not. The Queen is currently on an annual wage of 7.9 million for doing, in my sense, not quite a lot. This money could go to other things, like education, healthcare, because education is our future. Education is our future. We are the future. Therefore, money should be invested in us, and every question should be answered. That's why MPs make the effort by going into school, whereas I've never seen a Queen go into a school and speak to any of my friends or anybody that I know.
On that point, sir, the Queen was recently at Westminster Abbey speaking to some of the people.
Okay. Yeah, she was at Westminster Abbey. What does that say? Westminster Abbey. Does that represent me in what side? What the Queen does is attend tea parties and openings, whereas MPs work much harder, so our constituencies are better, whilst the Queen attends parties, waves and smiles, and cuts a few ribbons so she gets her pay, without even breaking a sweat. Now, ladies and gentlemen, today the Queen does not represent us. She's just a symbol, a relic of a bygone age. She is unable to relate to us, and therefore the idea is that this country stands for democracy, yeah? And the Queen has not been elected by us. Basically, this country's motto is elected by the people, for the people. But did we elect the Queen? And I think no. No. What basically the Queen is an overpaid celebrity. All she does is stands as a political ambassador, whereas you have all seen that her children are clearly not fit enough for the job to rule this country. You saw Harry dressed in a Nazi uniform. How can you explain this, that the Queen is doing the best of her abilities? And the monarchy itself is a sexist action against women. The monarchy says that the first son born should be the king. I mean, what happened to the suffragettes that suffered so many atrocities that and were able to conjure those solid hearts of the past, yet were unable to inflict the top of the rankings? Why is this? So basically, I just want to finish on this point, that MPs do their best and they go unrecognised, whereas the Queen is just a celebrity and does not do much for our country. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Javed. And now the second speaker to oppose the motion is Iranga.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry for that rocky start. Now, I'd like to begin by getting into the nitty-gritty of this. The second speaker gave a humorous speech, yes, that's a given. Now, by throwing around, it's understandable that you could throw around the word dictatorship and not know what it means. How on earth do we live in a dictatorship when we are given the vote? Please, ladies and gentlemen, may someone please explain that to me. And in addition to that, they began by saying that Uncle Sam is similar to the Queen. Now, the difference between the Queen and Uncle Sam is that the Queen is actually our representative, and not just a made-up comic that was made up just between the USSR and the US. In addition to this, he said that the Queen He said that the Queen, all she does is attend dinner parties and attend tea parties. But these tea parties and dinner parties are integral to our society. The fact that let me finish. The fact that she attaches her name to this means that she can give recognitions to charities at a very minimal cost, ladies and gentlemen. Now tell me if David Cameron can do the same thing. The Prince's Trust gives a lot of money to help social mobility. He's saying that the Queen does nothing to help him and relate to people like him, but yet again, the Prince's Trust is set up in areas like Moss Side, like Kingsford, and like Rebuttal. No, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Now, today I'll be speaking about a point that actually contrasts what he was saying. He was saying, why is it that we shouldn't have an elected monarch? Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm saying that, yes, we shouldn't have an elected monarch, because the Queen is a symbolic head of state. She represents the nation in itself and to other nations. She doesn't owe her position to any single party or either patronages. She has no commercial, no factional interest. This is why we believe that it's a good cause. Modern politicians say what you want to hear. Liberal Democrats, they said we won't raise taxes. No, we won't. They said we won't raise VAT. And what happens? 20%. Now, has an objective. She has no political associations. So when she says something, she's not saying it because she wants your vote. She's saying it because she believes that it's in the best interest of our society. Now, ladies and gentlemen, go ahead.
So she says it in the interest of our society, knowing she will never be held accountable for it.
There is accountability that lies with the monarchy now. David Cameron has made it more possible for there to be greater transparency within the monarchy, because they now can be held accountable by the Freedom of Information Act, which previously wasn't possible. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it is valuable to have someone who's not elected, and to have someone who is elected, like the Prime Minister, and someone who's not elected, to have a balance of this power. Because, ladies and gentlemen, it will be all too well to have an elected president. But then again, what is that? We've had longevity with our current monarchy. What would our country stand for if it's just like changing your underwear every 4 or 8 years? Because that is what effectively it would be if we were to have a president. Because they would change every 4 to 8 years depending on their efficiency. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're saying that the monarchy can properly address all people because it has no allegiance to one set of people. And this is something that politicians can't do. They can't address the minority who actually haven't voted them in. No, thank you. And it would be worse to have a president or a prime minister who is elected who can't adequately speak to the people. And it's also better for us. No, thank you. It's also better to have an accident of birth. Someone who has no political axe to grind. Someone who has an allegiance to the people themselves and not a political party or the people who voted them in. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I leave you by saying that our monarchy is integral to who we are. Ladies and gentlemen, the accident of birth could actually be a very good thing. Now, he speaks about male primogenital. I think that's how it's pronounced. I'm not sure. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if he's so adamant about male primogenital, why don't we just change it to absolute primogenital, whereby the female can actually inherit the throne, and by that, no, thank you, time is closed. And in that essence, we'd be able to change what's happened as opposed to just changing it because he feels that women aren't getting equal rights. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, time for our third speech from the proposition, Manchester Academy. And please welcome Idris.
Good day. I'd just like to say it's an honour to be talking to all of you. The Queen is made a tourist attraction. Anyone could be a tourist attraction. You just throw money at it. Everything you say is of the history of the Queen. British culture will forever be in the Commonwealth, Queen or no Queen. And apparently, you need explaining of a dictatorship in this argument. We didn't vote for the Queen, and she's still the Queen. Dictatorship! No, but seriously. She is politically neutral, which has its effects. Don't you want to see a queen criticise Parliament's decisions in which she's just as human as us? She cares just as actively as how the country's run. And now, I'm going to talk about the Queen as a symbol, and how it does not suit Britain today. The Queen has so much power, has lost so much power actually, politically, that she signs things without looking at them. She has questions to laws she has passed.
On that point, sir.
No, thank you. A legislation passed, I don't know when, but banks have more control over people's money. 2 years later, she said, how come nobody saw the recession coming? It was in your hands. Now, I'm not blaming the Queen for the recession or any economical strife. No, thank you. It's just an indication of how little she affects the money I make, the decisions I do. And I don't care if she shakes the hand of a farmer in New Zealand. Anyone can do it. Which leads me on to my next point. We need something that represents multicultural and diverse Britain. Something, a leader who we chose to do it, not someone who just hasn't deserved
Point
it.
of information.
Yes, please.
But we supposedly chose David Cameron, who went to Eton and is very, very rich. He doesn't represent you. I doubt he's ever been to Moss Side. So how is he an apt representation?
I believe that David Cameron as the Prime Minister cares more about me than the Queen, who can do possibly nothing to affect how I live my life. We need the position of a monarch to be something we can aspire for. How many of us are next in line to be a king or queen? None of you. Instead, do we not need an elected ambassador whose election reflects Britain as a democracy? And how much fuss is there about the royal family today? They're in the tabloids once every fortnight for some of the most ludicrous things. They can get sand in their eyes and be on the front page.
Point of information.
No, thank you. It's just awful how people need to know about this. So let's remove the fuss. Let's remove the respect we give to someone who doesn't deserve it. Because let's move Britain forward in an age where diversity prevails. Where we support icons such as our national treasures. Such as the wonderful people who've given me the chance to speak to you today. Who truly make Britain wonderful. Not a queen who represents a minority. So, I beg you to propose.
Thank you, Idris. And now the third speaker for the opposition, Annie.
I'd like to thank the third proposition speaker for his marvellous speech that sort of turned into an Oscar acceptance speech towards the end. Let's get down to rebuttal. Now, they said this is not a democracy. Britain is a democracy because we elect our Prime Minister. The Queen passes laws based on advice from the Prime Minister. Now, they contradicted themselves when they said that the Queen has absolute power over us and she doesn't deserve it. Then you said the Queen has no power and sits around and does nothing. Please, make up your mind. Now, they said that we elected David Cameron to be our Prime Minister. Newsflash, we didn't. That's why we're under a coalition government. The Queen's son. In fact, it's Prince Charles who actually decided to pay £3.5 million in taxes last year. He wasn't bound to do it, but he still did it. So tell me that isn't a good example that he's setting to younger people. Now, they said that the monarchy stands for social device, and they said the Commonwealth stands for us going to other people's countries and killing them and telling them that the Queen is their queen. Well, no. More bloodshed has come in this world under Republican overthrows of monarchies than any other type of war. Now, they said she attends tea parties. I'd like to reiterate what Iranga said. These tea parties are very integral to our society because these tea parties create prestige, give honours to charities such as DebateMate, give honours to other charities at very low cost, but create prestige and increase social mobility. Now I'd like to move on to my main point.
Point of information.
One sec. You know what, just go.
You said that we were saying that we were in a dictatorship. We were saying the Queen represents a dictatorship. So that we
If we live under the Queen and the Queen represents a dictatorship, then how can you not be saying we're in a dictatorship? Please! Come on! Now, I'm going to be talking about the role versus personality and the structure and stability that a monarchy provides. Now, role versus personality. You haven't presented to us a valid enough reason for us to eradicate the entire role of a monarchy. You failed to define your motion, giving us no idea of what would happen after the monarchy was being. They said that, oh well, according to them, well, they haven't given us any lines to go by. I think they're going to be throwing the Queen's baggage out of the Buckingham Palace tonight, and she'll have to find her own way around town. But I don't know. But then the thing about it is, the ceremonial role that the Queen plays is integral to our society. The fact that she can create prestige is not because we throw money at her as they seem to think, but because she represents 910 years of history. She represents the history of Britain, the foundation of Britain. Parliamentarianism came after the monarchists did. This country was under a monarchy before Parliament came into power. Now, here's the thing. You claim that the Queen is this high and mighty person who thinks she's better than everyone, who thinks that we're not allowed to vote. Then why did she establish Her Majesty's Parliament? Why did she allow us to vote for a leader? Now, moving on to the ceremonial roles. People come to England not to see Buckingham Palace because Buckingham Palace is a nice building, but because of the changing of guards, because of the things that Buckingham Palace represents, because of the things that the palaces around our country, the castles around our countries represent, the fact that they are the places of residence for our royal family, our heads of state. When you remove the Queen, you remove the prestige that's attached to Buckingham Palace. If you want to keep on capitalising on tourism that was generated by monarchists, then isn't that contradictory? Can't you just make up your mind? Do you want the monarchy? Do you not want them? You want aspects of them, or do you not want aspects of them? Because we don't understand on the opposition. Now moving on to the structure and stability that they provide. The structure and stability that a monarchy provides is integral to our society. It's intrinsic. The fact that if we didn't have a Queen who could have chosen a Prime Minister if they didn't find a coalition agreement, means that we were able to find stability in times where we had a hung Parliament. What happens if we have no Queen and there is a hung Parliament? We don't understand. If we have a Queen and there is a hung Parliament, that means we have a minority government, which means that we will have the same situation as they had in America, which they provided as a reason. In America, in the last century, they had 3 presidents who were trapped in presidency, who had policies they wanted to pass, who wanted to pass human rights bills, who wanted to pass civil rights bills, but couldn't because they had a majority of people who weren't actually from their party. Now, the role of the Queen is ceremonial, it is intrinsic, and it provides structure and stability. Now, we want the proposition to make up their mind whether or not they want a monarchy or not, and whether or not a dictatorship is what you live under or what your Queen represents. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Annie. Now, I'm going to throw the motion open to the floor for the floor debate, and I will call upon you first. Now, do you think you can cope without a microphone?
Yeah, shall.
Go on, hold that.
I'm going to direct this to the opposition. You said that that the Queen brings loads of tourism to this country, and I wondered if you knew that the Buckingham Palace only attracts 50,000 visitors a year, whereas London Eye attracts 32 million. I think we can live without those 50,000. And you also said that the Queen brings high profile to charities for a low price. £7.9 million isn't a low price. That might be loose change to you, but it's not to me. Thank you.
Thank you. The gentleman in the shirt.
Okay, this is directed to the proposition. Now, the first speaker of the proposition said that the Queen symbolizes negativity. Now, ladies and gentlemen, how does the Queen symbolize negativity when, in actual fact, she actually brings tourism to this country, and she brings in a lot of money into this country, and also the Queen represents our nation and our face in this world. And ladies and gentlemen, if we were to get rid of the monarchy, then why don't we get rid of celebrities, lying politicians, and ladies and gentlemen, the England football team? Thank you.
The lady there in the second row, can you pass that over?
This is for you guys. You guys said that the Queen represents 951 years of history. In this day and age, and with technology, aren't we all about moving forward? And she's from the past, and she's not familiar with present stuff today of our generation. That's why I think I relate to them when they say that the Queen knows nothing about us. And David Cameron is better because he's been growing up in this environment. He's here in this day and age of this generation. I don't see how, because the Queen represents history, she's a good figurehead to lead us into the future.
Thank you very much. And over here.
Right, looking at the opposition, we've been told that the Queen can represent us, okay, but you also said the Queen represents the 10 Commandments. Now, surely in a multicultural and multi-diverse society, the 10 Commandments do not represent everybody.
Yes, the gentleman standing.
I'd like to address this question to the
Just speak.
I believe the opposition, the second speaker, addresses a point. But just to the proposition, in a world where we've got MPs and peers claiming expenses on things like moats, admittedly it's changed now, but there's still a distinct lack of faith in politicians. I was campaigning in the last general election, and I found so many times that there were people who just didn't care about politics. But if you ask them about the Queen, as I did, they said, oh yeah, well she's an alternative, she's someone that's above politics, so why are you trying to ban someone who actually does firmly represent the British people if you actually and don't just talk about your own personal experiences?
Okay, thank you very much. In the front row here.
Hi, I have a question for the proposition. There's a bit of a point here that you've kind of missed out, or I've for some reason haven't heard. How are you actually planning to do this? What are you going to do? As they mentioned earlier, are you going to throw them out on the streets and make them homeless? What's going to happen to their royal buildings that cost millions? What's going to happen to Buckingham Palace, Windsor Castle and Hampton Court Palace? How are you going to do this? It's not feasible.
This is a question for the proposition. I don't know who of you. One of you said that the Queen does not socialise herself with the other classes, so she's up and she wouldn't socialise herself with the working class. But in our class system, which is what Britain is, social mobility is possible, which means someone from working class can move up to upper class so they can socialise themselves with the Queen. So go back on your point and evaluate yourself, please.
Yes, the gentleman in the back row here.
You say the Queen is a big part of British tradition and their history. Now we have quite a dark history. 200 years of slavery is a big part of our dark history. And as part of our tradition, apparently we're meant to have a good football team, yet we decided to lose 4-2. And yes, it was 4-2 against Germany last week. And you say that the Queen can cover all of our views. Now David Cameron, we picked him. He can cover our views. I don't think the Queen ever picks up a map and goes, I wonder what's going on in Dagenham today. We can actually tell David Cameron our views through our local MPs. The Queen, she doesn't really care about Dagenham or anywhere else like that.
Thank you very much. Our final four speech, yes.
Okay,
said that the Queen is neutral, so then if she's neutral, then what should be the point of her like still being here? And also, people they don't come here for tourism for the Queen. They come to see like Buckingham Palace. So like if you abolish the Queen, then you don't have to knock down the building or anything. You can just keep it there for tourism and stuff.
Thank you very much. And that concludes the floor debate. It's time to move on to the summing up, ladies and gentlemen, and to sum up for the opposition. First, we're going to begin with Kofi from Kingsford.
Okay, so this has been a very interesting debate. I would just like to thank everyone for the opportunity to come here and speak to you guys. I would just like to comment on some of the things said by the floor. A young lady talks about the London Eye and how the Queen doesn't attract a lot of tourists. The Queen and the monarchy generate £200 million. She said the London Eye generates £7.9 million. £7.9 million is less than a penny of an adult and of every adult in Britain. That's not a lot to me, sorry. Also, a young lady said the Queen is outdated. My grandma, she doesn't understand everything that is going on today. But should we abolish her? I don't think so. This young man over here talks about he wonders what's going on in Dagenham. Well, let me tell you what's going on in Dagenham. The BNP are gaining power. Let's talk about the first speaker on the proposition. He didn't define the motion. One big flaw in their argument. Also, you said she does not represent society. Britain is a multicultural society. We have Africans, we have Caribbeans, Asians, Scottish people, Irish people. The Queen is German. The second speaker talks about the signing of, passing of laws. Yeah, you said, oh, she just signs the paper. Signing the paper is passing the law. Also, you said that the Queen, an educated woman, does not read before she signs something. Are you serious? The second speaker also talked about the Queen attends parties, waves and smiles, garden parties, tea parties. Can I just tell everyone that the Queen is a woman in her 80s, yeah? If I saw the Queen running about London, sprinting and helping everyone with their problems, I would be so surprised. It's unbelievable. The first speaker talked about anyone can be a tourist attraction. Just throw money at them. Everyone in this room throw £200 at me and watch me generate £2 million. It's not going to happen. Now, let's talk about the points made by the opposition. Joe talked about the monarchy as a tradition is important, is heritage to our country, is valued by our country, is valued by not only us, but the Commonwealth, by poorer countries, other countries. By removing the Queen, we remove our heart of Britain. I would not want to remove my own heart. I know the country will not want to remove theirs. You also said the Queen has the power to pass laws that are with the Ten Commandments. That is true. So the country was founded on the Ten Commandments. So yes, the country was actually founded on the Ten Commandments. Irengo talked about it's a symbolic head of state. She does not owe her position to anyone, and that is true. She can represent everyone in this room, everyone on the street, everyone in Westminster, everyone in Canning Town, everyone in Beckton, everyone in everywhere. So yes, you also talked. Now we also talk about the balance of power, the monarchy and the government. It's like chocolate cake, people. Chocolate and cake, put it together, it's amazing. Thank you.
And finally, to summarise for the proposition, ladies and gentlemen, Asma.
Before I start my summary, I would just like to rebut some of the points that you put forward, and some of the floor debate as well. You talked about tourism, and you talked about how the Queen generates so much money for our economy, but she all that she generates is people coming to her big house. That's it. That's all she does. And as somebody from the floor said, that only 50,000 people go to the Buckingham Palace. That's not a lot. And fair enough, if your grandma does not know much about politics, but then again, your grandma is not head of state. And you kept throwing around this argument of what will we do if there isn't a monarch? Well, we would elect an ambassador to represent our country. And you kept talking about how the Queen does represent us, and she does represent the lower class British people. She knows, again, I cannot stress this point enough because we have said it like 5 times and you still do not understand. She knows nothing about a child that is growing up in Moss Side. I doubt she has even heard of Moss Side. And a woman from this side of the room said, you talked about how the upper class can interact with the lower class. But the lower class, and you said the lower class can go upwards, and that is true, the lower class can go upwards and go to upper class, but the upper class cannot go down to the lower class. Especially if they are a part of the monarch. I would also like to stress Faison's point about the fact that the Queen gets £7.1 million a year. In total, for her reign, that is 466.1 million over her span of her reign. That is a lot of money. Now, why is it that we are spending our money on a very famous celebrity that doesn't do much, rather than investing this into poverty, into the problems of our England, of our Britain? Now, as Faison correctly said, MPs work day in and day out, so your constituencies and your areas are better for you to live in. And all the Queen does is cut red ribbons and kisses babies on their foreheads. That's all she does, and attends a few ceremonies. Are you telling me that we should give her 7.1 million a year when MPs, when the Prime Minister is only getting 100 grand a year? It doesn't make sense. Is it what? And for all these reasons, I beg you to oppose. Thank you.
Thank you both, Manchester Academy and Kingsford. That draws our debate to a close, and the judges are now going to very briefly retire to decide on who is the winner.
Where's Richard? Richard Kosh. Richard, can you come up to present yourself? Richard is the genius who had the foresight to think. I'll get Richard to say a few words in a moment. But just before, I just want to seize a second of your time, because what we do at DebateMate, most people don't know, is we run a graduate. We run a graduate. Students change with their haircut. We run a graduate recruitment program. We get some really smart young students to come and work for us. We entice them away from McKinsey or the civil service, fast track, the really top jobs. We get them to come and work for us for a couple of years, and then they go off and run the world. And we have a fantastic guy you've seen tonight, Pete Barton, who's about to go to Sandhurst before he goes to Afghanistan. We're very sad to lose him. We hope he doesn't get killed. But anyway, he's going to set, but he is a genius. He's been running it all tonight. We've got a very small presence. So thanks, Pete, very much. And on that note, I'm going to hand over to Alan and to Richard to do the announcement of the Santa Claus. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. There's easy things and there's hard things. The easy thing is coming. I've followed this organisation for a while. There's a reason this is an outstanding organisation. It was a brilliant idea, and it's being brilliantly executed. So if you started as supporters at the beginning of this evening, I hope you'll leave as big as supporters afterwards. And remember, being a supporter is not a noun, it's a verb. We're going to actually do something, and we all know that we can all do something. And I would hope that after a night like this, we're genuinely inspired to actually actively support and drive this organisation forward. It's a critical time for it. With your support, it can really help. And that's at every level, in everybody in the room. I was asked to chair the decision-making of the judges on this. I was more than ably supported by folk who really know what they're talking about, and by some really champion debaters we heard before as they were announced. And it was fascinating, their clarity as they discussed it. And interestingly enough, we all focus on very much similar things. It's an amazing sense of seeing the sophistication of arguments, the clarity, the way you can pick up the contradictions in each other's cases and play off each other. And I thought all that was outstanding. I thought it was very interesting on the subject. Everybody got the idea of the value for money and the role of the Queen. I thought that was a very interesting call. I think the whole sense of democracy, I would expect debate make teams to know less, or to, not to care more about that. I thought a fascinating point to have carried that so strongly. And I think the idea of not just representing Britain overseas, but representing the people of Britain. So I think all of that was absolute heartland stuff for a good and proper fight. I think in the end, it wasn't just the content, and it wasn't just the style. It was really the combination and the way things are pulled together. So it wasn't an easy call. I think it had a lot to do with not just winning the argument, but also winning the audience. And watching the audience was quite interesting to tell. And I thought one of the star players of this evening was actually all the folk and the questions that came from the floor, which are absolutely outstanding. I don't think I can keep the suspense going any longer.
You don't have an envelope.
I don't have an envelope, but I think I have the applause of the room in saying that tonight we would like to say that while they are both champions of champions to have got here at all, we're going to award Kingsford. Debate with they're people you clearly don't want to come up against. I do think we'd like to give a hand to Manchester Academy. I want to know not just how they teach them to debate so well in Moss Side, but what do they feed them? I am now here to award a prize. Thank you very much.
Thank you. My lords, ladies and gentlemen, I've always wanted to say that, and I've never been able to with any seriousness. Anyway, thank you very much indeed for everything that everyone's done. Everyone who's contributed towards this event, and particularly Margaret, has been fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. And I would like to say that the losing side did a fantastic job. I think they all made fantastic speeches, so they shouldn't. I know it's sad not to have won, but you're English after all. And I'd like to say you did extremely well. And thank you very much indeed for the contribution, and thank you for the amusement as well. One point which nobody ever made, which I would have liked to make, is if you don't have a queen, well, maybe you could elect the queen. You could elect Stephen Fry. Not as a queen, of course, but as a president. President Fry has a nice ring to it, doesn't it? I think it's a very nice ring. So anyway, but I'm not meant to be making a speech. I'm meant to be presenting the couple. Ladies, thank you so much. You did a fantastic job. You did an absolutely fantastic job, and you're very worthy winners. And I'm delighted to present the prize to you. So well done.